In one of the most sweeping internal shake-ups of the Trump regime's second term, at least half of the senior leadership at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is being reassigned, part of a broader effort to accelerate mass deportations and tighten control over the country's immigration enforcement apparatus. According to two government officials familiar with the plan, the Department of Homeland Security has ordered the reassignment of 12 ICE field office directors, the regional chiefs who oversee enforcement operations across the United States. In total, about half of the agency's 25 field offices will see new leadership in the coming weeks. Several additional posts are changing hands through retirements or other departures, affecting major hubs like Chicago, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. The moves, coordinated with the White House, reflect a strategy to integrate more personnel from Customs and Border Protection, particularly Border Patrol agents, into ICE's leadership structure. Half of the new appointees will reportedly come from CBP ranks, while the rest will be drawn from within ICE itself. The restructuring, one former senior official said, had been under quiet discussion for months as part of a broader plan to align immigration agencies more closely with Donald Trump's authoritarian priorities. Since its creation in 2003, ICE has been the primary agency responsible for immigration enforcement within the U.S., while the Border Patrol focuses on preventing unauthorized entry at the country's frontiers. But until Donald Trump, the line between the two agencies was blurred. Border Patrol agents, long associated with aggressive enforcement at the border, have increasingly been deployed in cities hundreds of miles inland, conducting raids and arrests traditionally carried out by ICE. The integration of CBP officials into ICE leadership marks a deepening of that trend. Critics say it will further militarize an agency already accused of excessive force and heavy-handed tactics. In recent months, Border Patrol units operating in Chicago and Los Angeles have drawn public outrage after carrying out high-profile raids. In one Chicago operation, agents reportedly descended from a helicopter onto a residential building. In Los Angeles, a team emerged from a rented truck and detained over a dozen people in a Home Depot parking lot. Gregory Bovino, a senior Border Patrol official who oversaw operations in both cities, is currently facing a federal lawsuit alleging the use of tear gas and other lethal force against demonstrators. Despite such controversies, Bovino and other Border Patrol veterans are being promoted to senior ICE roles as part of the leadership overhaul. The shake-up also appears motivated by frustration within the White House over ICE's inability to meet Donald Trump's deportation goals. Senior aides, including Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, reportedly set a target of 3,000 arrests a day earlier this year, a benchmark the agency has consistently failed to meet. Internal figures show ICE averaging just over 1,100 daily arrests, far below expectations, causing American citizens and legal immigrants to get caught up in the arrests. According to multiple reports, Donald Trump and top advisors have expressed disappointment that deportations have not accelerated despite expanded funding and new executive orders easing enforcement restrictions. The president's long-stated ambition of removing 1 million immigrants during his first year in office remains far from reach. Homeland Security and White House spokespeople declined to comment directly on the reassignments, but issued statements emphasizing unity and determination. "This is one team, one fight," said DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. President Trump has built a tenacious team, led by Secretary Kristi Noem, to deliver on the American people's mandate to remove criminal aliens from this country. Except criminal aliens are not the only people being removed from the country, as Donald Trump criminalizes the seeking of asylum, legal under international law. The new changes mark the third major leadership reshuffle at ICE since Trump returned to office. Earlier in the year, acting ICE Director Caleb Vitello was reassigned, replaced by veteran agent Todd Lyons. Two senior division heads were later moved to other posts in May as part of what the DHS described as organizational optimization. For administration insiders, such turnover reflects Trump's demand for loyalty and results. Supporters argue that constant restructuring keeps the bureaucracy aligned with Trump's mission, while critics say it creates instability, weakens oversight, and promotes a culture of fear among federal employees. The ICE shake-up coincides with growing criticism of the regime's immigration policies, particularly regarding free speech. Over the weekend, British journalist Sami Hamdi was detained by immigration authorities at San Francisco International Airport. The Council on American Islamic Relations denounced the move as a blatant affront to free expression, claiming Hamdi's detention was retaliation for his outspoken criticism of Israel's military campaign in Gaza during a US-speaking tour. A Trump regime official confirmed Hamdi faces deportation proceedings, but declined to specify the grounds. His detention follows several similar cases in which foreign journalists and activists critical of US or Israeli policies were detained or expelled. Earlier this month, Salvadorian reporter Mario Guevara was deported after live-streaming anti-Trump demonstrations, and a federal court recently ruled that the government's policy of barring or deporting scholars with pro-Palestinian views violates constitutional free speech protections. That ruling, issued by a Reagan-appointed judge, described the policy as an attempt to intentionally chill protected expression. Legal experts expect the administration to appeal, likely taking the case to a Supreme Court now dominated by far-right Christian nationalists, shaped by Donald Trump's judicial appointments. Despite the court's rebuke, the State Department has continued to revoke visas under the policy, citing national security considerations. Civil rights groups warn that the government's recent actions, including Hamdi's detention, show a growing willingness to use immigration enforcement as a political weapon. Together, the ICE restructuring and recent detentions paint a picture of a government seeking not just to control borders, but to redefine the boundaries of dissent. By placing Border Patrol veterans in ICE leadership, the regime is consolidating power over immigration enforcement under a single, more aggressive vision, one that extends from the southern border to major US cities and even to the nation's airports. Critics argue that these developments reflect a dangerous expansion of federal policing authority, blurring the lines between immigration enforcement and political surveillance. Supporters counter that such measures are necessary to restore law and order and carry out the will of voters who demand stricter immigration control. As the regime accelerates its campaign of deportations and leadership changes, the balance between national security, civil liberties, and humanitarian responsibility remains deeply contested. Whether the latest shake-up will bring the results the White House demands or further inflame the public debate over America's immigration system remains to be seen. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sundays on the weekend show with Midas Touch.